a love story. It kind of starts like this. There was a beautiful young woman who lived in a village in a beautiful, quaint area of Africa back many, many years ago. All the men of the village thought she was beautiful, and all the villagers loved her. She was kind, she was sweet, she was passionate. And men, when she became marrying age, became suitors. Many came. One day, though, a beautiful red antelope came to the village. He had heard of her beauty and wanted her for his wife. So he came and he sat down and he talked to her, and the villagers kind of watched. And as they had their conversation, she said, "You know, I'd like some honey. Would you mind going and getting me some honey?" So he turns and says, "I will." And he leaves and he goes looking through and finds honey in the tallest tree. He takes a rope and he ties it and he tries to climb the best that he can to get to it. And all afternoon he tries. He finally gives up. He goes back to the village, and the villagers are looking for this honey, and they tell him, no, you can't even get your girl some honey. No, you have to leave. You are not worthy of her. We do not approve. And he goes back home to his camp. He goes back home, and there in his camp he tells the story of this beautiful woman and how he wasn't able to take care of her needs. Well, there in the camp was an ape, huge and strong and powerful. And he started to think, you know, I need a wife. So the next morning he gets up and he goes to the village and he meets this beautiful woman, and while they're talking, she turns and says, "You know, I'd like some honey. Do you mind going and getting me some honey?" Strong and proud, he says, "I will go get you honey." And he goes into the forest and he sees this huge tree, at the top of it honey. So he also grabs a vine and he ties it to the tree, and he climbs and he climbs, and he's just a little too short. He tries all afternoon and finally gives up. He goes back to the village, and the villagers look at him and they know, no. She asked you simply for honey, and you can't even get her honey. You are not worthy of this beautiful maiden. You might as well leave. In the camp, explaining the story, there in the camp was this tiny little mouse. The mouse decides, you know, it wouldn't be such a bad idea if I had a wife. So he goes and he heads to the village and he meets the beautiful girl. And even before she asks, he says, "You know, what if I go get you some honey?" And he turns and he leaves and he goes out and he cuts down a vine and attaches it to one of the branches of the tree. And he climbs up the vine and climbs all the way up to the tree until he gets to the honey. He fills all the honey that he can and he goes back to her. And when he hits the village, the villagers are all applauding. Now that is one who is worthy of this beautiful girl. He sees her need. He gives her exactly what she wants. Now the villagers were watching to see if the maiden would love him. And as they talked and ate honey together, she thought, even though he was very small, even though he was not as beautiful as the gazelle or as powerful as the ape, his heart and his desire to please her was all that she really cared for. And she did marry that small little mouse. And their love is a testimony to all of us. It doesn't matter how strong or how beautiful. Do you have a heart to please? And that is my story.